So, back from the jaunt down to Bustleton, what I call the wildflower trip, which was sort of successful, but it highlighted a few shortcomings. And now I'm going to work on some of those, but this one is the one that's going to cause a lot of time. Well, not cause a lot of time, will take a lot of time, let's get that right. So up in the cab, I've dismantled all the rack, if you like, and the visor holders and all that sort of stuff that goes. It's not very complicated in these older trucks, but there's a parallel paraphernalia that goes on along here and here, which holds the visor about there, or the shelf, parcel shelf, that's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, moving on. So I've decided to put the aircon unit in the center here. There's nowhere on the sides of the cab that are deep enough to put it where you get an even flow of airflow. I was going to put it above the crawl through, but that was going to cause issues with getting in and out. And the crawl through is one of those things that has cost and taken an obscene amount of time to do. And with these trucks, the clamping mechanism for the cab is really high up, so you can't get a door or a crawl through low enough, sort of where you can sort of go into it easily. And because of the design I decided to do, which looking back now maybe wasn't such a good idea, I've got my bed at this end, so I'm having to crawl through over my bed to get into the cab. Now for me it's fine. The idea was that the dogs could do it as well, but unfortunately my older dog, just before we went on this trip, developed hip dysplasia again, or his hip was hurting him, and I had to wait over the weekend for a vet to open so I can get some meds for him. And ever since then he's reluctant to go back into the cabin or the box from the cab side. He can come down it because it's downhill, as you can see. So can the other one, Marley, and Marley can go both ways, but he's not happy in going back up that way either if Monty doesn't. Monty is his god, I guess, his ruler. So that's put the kibosh on that, which means I'm going to have to make something that they can come in and out of this cab from the outside, which is actually a real hindrance. Once they're in there, I can crawl in and out, no problem, and deal with whatever I need to deal with to get going or whatever. Anyway, I digress. This is what I've done so far. I've done this overnight. I've made this U-shaped, it's about 1 mil thick, just under 9.95 galvanized sheet. I've pre-drilled it for the holes that are going to hold the aircon box to hold the evaporator. I've made it slightly bigger than I need it to be, and the reason that is because if it breaks, because it's an eBay special, which only has a year's worth of warranty, so they probably will at some point, hopefully it won't, I can always replace it. So I've made it in a way so that the box can be removed and re-put up there without having to cut or dismantle anything. So I'm going to remove this now, and it's had about, I don't know, 20 odd hours to glue. By the time we fiddle with it, it'll be 24 hours. I did it late last night, and yeah, it should be strong enough. It literally is bonded to the ceiling. I've also used VHB tape to hold it up there, but I've also jammed it, as you can see. There's a bit of wood in there. So I'm going to take that apart now. This sun glare is doing my head in, so I'm just going to do something with that. Move this out the way. I managed to have access to a workshop where I actually cut, drilled and shaped the box that was going to hold the aircon, and I had use of a magnet bend, which is really handy to fold the edges, and a spot welder, which was even more cool. And the result is the box that you see that I'm fitting up now. Alright, I'm only going to put the two in, but you can see that's in solid, and it's hanging off the back here, which is what I'm going to do next is make the brackets to hold this bit. So you can see it's a little bit lower, but when I'm sat in the chair, it is actually not obtrusive at all, as you can see. I mean, if I leant forward and stepped up that way, yes, it would. And at some point I'm thinking of beveling this up to the same shape as the aircon. Now, that sits reasonably well, like that. And it's quite solid, it's going to support the weight. So now I'm going to do is develop these brackets at weird angles. This is only a sort of prototype, I guess. I have got two of them somewhere, and I can never remember which one's what. I think this is this side, so that's going to go. It's going to go up here somewhere. This little cutout here is for a vent, so the aircon can draw air in, and then that's going to sit somewhere like that, like so. And then it's going to be bolted into this flange here, the original one. Unfortunately, the screw holes are pre-drilled threaded screws like this one here, where my little finger is, are behind the box there, as you can see. So it's not easy to get a nut and bolt in there with this in the way. So I had to go to the outside like this, and I'm going to have to create my own. Now I did want to get my nut cert tool going, but it still hasn't arrived because for whatever reason. But that's going to go like that. You're never going to see it again unless you take the whole thing apart, so I'm quite happy with it like that. I'm going to cut this bit off at the bottom, fettle with it so it fits nicely, cut the cutout here. I think I'll just cut, I might have to put the grill in just to see how far I need to cut it. And basically we're just going to do a bit at a time until it fits. Once it fits, I would rather it was welded to this, so it's a complete assembly, and then when it goes into the truck, that's where you undo it here, not have more screws going into there. I've already got a number of screws. This particular vent could probably be riveted in, and so could this. That would be a permanent assembly. I'll probably bond it and rivet it. I haven't got access to a spot welder anymore. I did have to do this, luckily, but not anymore. So the idea is this whole box comes off for replacement or pipe removal or whatever, hence the big hole at the back here. That's there because of the two pipes, the power cord and all the rest of it. That vent's there to serve as a vent so it can draw air in from the fans, but also somewhere for me to put my hand in to tighten up the nuts for the high and low pressure pipes for the aircon. They're going to run along here, hopefully, be here behind this bracket, and then down through this gap here, along the A pillar, through the dashboard, and then straight through the floor down there, down to the compressor and the condenser. That's the idea. I don't think the pipes supplied are long enough, so I might have to make some up myself, which is going to be a pain in the butt. Bloody random spider coming from somewhere. I don't like the look of that one because it looks like a red back. No, the one that's coming in here. Bloody. Go away. So the aircon saga continues. As you saw, I welded this bracket just a second ago. It's really thin, it's 0.9 mil galvanized, or zinc aluminum, whichever you want to call it. And yeah, with a TIG welder on the lowest setting it does it, but you've got to be really careful you haven't got any gal in there because it just blows holes through it. So I'm reasonably happy with that. That's going to go there. I'm going to just show you. That sort of goes there to hold the aircon unit in place. So about there. Always shift slightly when you weld things, but that's about there. And I usually use a piece of paper, this piece of wood, to level it, because I'm going to put a piece of alley or something for the parcel shelf. And that sort of, I'm trying to do this on the camera, so that sort of rests on that piece of wood like that. So that, imagine that's the parcel shelf, that piece of wood. And that's going to get riveted to the body of the truck here, and that's going to be self-tapping screws, so it's removable. And yeah, so next step is to actually drill the holes and put a nut in, because that's the corner is floating, if you like. And I've done exactly that on this side. If I can just maneuver myself across the truck, because it's bloody awkward. Good old Isuzu. I expect passengers to go from one side to the other, that's for sure. So on this side I've done the same. This one's already in, so I've riveted it to the frame of the truck. Put a nut in here to hold a floating shaft. So the shaft actually goes on top of this. So this will be always pre-assembled, and this whole unit will be removable, including the parcel shaft. When I put it on, I'll bond it with glue and rivet it. And then as it goes in, the shelf will slide between these ribs and under here, and then we'll just screw it in from the bottom here. The rest will be fixed to this hole. This is the old parcel shelf bar, which I cut and then welded a 5mm tiny plate in there and threaded it, so now it's screwed in from this side. And it's the same with the opposite side there, screwed into that. And then I've used the original mounting points here, but dropped it down by 20mm using a, I don't know if you can see it, using a coupler, M6 coupler. That's to drop it down a bit, because obviously the roof insulation is going to be a little bit thicker. That's why we've got this gap here, so the bit of wood to hold the insulation will sit on this, on the opposite lip here, and obviously on this lip here. That's the theory. Same on the other side. And obviously the aircon unit goes in here, which we're still working on. The pipes are going to go, so if you are doing this build, there's lots of places you can put this, but I wanted it here because of my crawl through is in the way, and the back seat, and there isn't much room above here to be able to put it in. So I've got enough room here where the pipes come out from the back here and will run along here. I'll put them in some sort of container and they'll run down here and through the floor, through the dashboard, down underneath the cab, where I'm hoping to fit condenser and compressor, which will need fabricating brackets for that. Anyway, moving on, I'm going to go and pre-drill these holes. The battery's about to run out. So I've drilled all the holes, and I've got the big one for the nut cert, which, if you don't know what they are, they're these little pre-threaded like hollow rivets, and that's going to go in like so, and then it gets crushed there. I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube. So what I've done, I never had success with these things. They always break. This is my third iteration. This I got off Temu, and it's a replica of an American brand. I've forgotten the name of it. And from what I've seen on videos, they work really well. It's air powered. These things are about ridiculous price, like $1,600 Aussie dollars. So what I do is, talking of which, I only paid, I think it was 150, and I've done 3 rivets with it, and so far so good. Pre-oil it just to give it some help, because this spins it on, not just pulls it in. So tighten it up, put it the right way around, like so, and you basically press the forward button, and you can see it. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to see if I can show you. I don't want to stuff it up right now. So I'm putting pressure towards it and keeping it flat, and it should self-torque itself. And when it does that, reverse it. And we're out. And then if you look carefully, it's crushed it. And that's an M6 ready to hold my parcel shelf from underneath. Anyway, let's go and put it on the truck. But yeah, basically that's it. This little gun, it's quite hefty. It's made out of cast steel. But we'll see. So far, so good. I'm going to try and put you up here somewhere. It's leveling. So. Okay, now what I'm going to do is line this one up and screw that in as well. I don't think I can get my drill in there, so I'm going to have to take this whole contraption out and do it like that. Alright, so what I've done is taken the whole contraption out now, so I can get into the screws. So that's these three here. So I'm not sure if I can put you back up here because there's no support here. Paint this up and prep it and get the mastic on it. rivets will hold it anyway, and pretty much that's it. There isn't much else to do. This one's going through a double layer, so I might struggle this one. No, we're good. So there we go, solid as a rock. And now what I'm going to do is take this off and trim it to size. I'm going to put this back on for now until I can make the template for the parcel shelf. So that'll be the next job. Will be a pain in the butt, I'm sure, like everything else in this thing. Alright, so that's enough for now, but you can see, or can you? Yes, you can see. That's come out really well, nice and neat. The grill will go back in there, so a little vent grill, so the air cons can suck it through. I'm going to put the air con in a minute and put this shelf back on. And I would like to somehow put an angle here to make this less obtrusive. I mean, it's, you know, plenty of room, even though I've got my seat back, and when I put that in you'll see what it looks like. It does come out about here, but that's because I want the side vents to blow air on my face and keep me cool when it's like 40 degrees outside, hopefully. Anyway, we're yet to see, but the beauty is the way I've designed this is it's a fair bit bigger, like 20mm all round bigger than the unit. So I can pack it with insulation or some sort of, you know, foam to keep it so it doesn't rattle. It's also anchored here in these two bolt holes on the side, and I'll show you that in a bit. Yeah, and the idea is if it breaks down, this particular unit, for whatever reason, which, you know, can do, I can remove it out of here without taking the whole paraphernalia off. If I have to take everything off because I need to get to the hoses, which this is why this vent hole is here, this is removable, it's not riveted in, so I can get my hand in there, and you'll see there's a big hole there where that bit of alley is sitting there. That's where the pipes come out, the high and low pressure pipes and the wiring, and I should be able to access it and unbolt everything with this still in. But if it has to come out, this whole unit can come out, all the shelving can come out quite relatively easily. And my last thing that I'm thinking about doing is putting the original light, like this one that used to be up here somewhere. I want to put it maybe here, or I might just upgrade to something newer. It'd be nice to have some light there, like a map reading light or something. Shame it's not higher. We could have had some, like, maybe even the radio there. I might have the radio on the side here because I think I might have some room, like the receiver part of the radio. We'll see. But anyway, let's keep working. So as you can see, it's got quite a lot of play in there. Remember that it's going to be the ceiling here, so we're going to lose some of that height. And we can't tilt it too far down, which would be ideal, because what I didn't realise when I ordered this is the under dash ones have got this stupid angle so that they point upwards. What I should have done was buy the one that had just the 4 holes in it. But the thing I didn't like about that one is that there was no way of directing the air unless you bought an extra cowling to go on top of those pipes or duct them somewhere. If this cab was taller, I would have put a center console up here and ducted it out the back and off the sides and used that as a chamber, like a ducting chamber. But this one, at least all the controls are on there on both sides. Power up to 3 different levels, fan speed, temperature control. It's all on the unit. There's no extra wiring. so it just saved time. The problem is if I tilt it too far this way, the drain holes for the water become too high up at the back. You can just about see that probably through the back there. It just doesn't come level. So what I'm going to do, instead of having it like that, which is obviously a bit silly, it's going straight up into it, I've got enough scope to come down to about there. And it still looks, I mean, ideally it should be like that, but that's not going to work. The water's going to come running through the front. So I'm going to have to tilt it sort of around there. And because of this angle, I'm thinking of whether to cut a bit more of this box or just leave it as it is and put a wooden front screen or something in there. Yeah, I don't know if it makes some work for myself, don't I? But anyway, the other thing is I've just thought, I wonder how noisy the fan unit is in this thing. So this is why I put an extra bit of layering around it, not gap around it. So I thought it would be handy to put some insulation around it to perhaps muffle the sound. I don't know, or even just vibration. I don't know what it's going to be like. So hence the gap all the way around. So I reckon about there somewhere. By the time the ceiling's in and a few bits and pieces and the insulation, it's not going to look too far out of place, but it would be nice to get it to sit comfortably like this. I might have to take it off and actually pre-fit it on the table type of thing and get it all snug and then bolt it all together. Like I said, it's sitting on these two M6 bolts. That's what it came with. They didn't send you a bracket. I had to make this bracket, obviously. And again, I don't know if you can see, but I'm using couplers to space them out. M6 couplers, really useful nut, I think. A bit underrated. All right, so yes, I don't know what to do now. I'm just thinking I need some alley, 3mm alley to make the parcel shelf. I think that's the next priority. I know all this works, so it's not a drama. Once I've got those made up and they fit nicely and all riveted in, I'll take it all apart and start fettling with this. And then once that's sorted, I can then have the pleasure of trying to fit the compressor and the condenser under the cab, which is going to be another mission itself. You can just see it peeking out there, the compressor. I'll put it under the seat. So it never ends, does it? I managed to score some of this sign material, which is made out of like 0.5 or less, I think, of alley on each side, and this like polycarbonate stuff on the inside. It was just bits of scrap, and what I've done is I've made the actual parcel shelf with the cutouts for the visor, and I've used the original sort of leading edge of the parcel shelf, which is some of this stuff, and I've cut it down to fit on both sides of the aircon pod, I guess. And what I've done is I've made another attachment point here with those corner brackets I showed you before, and now I've aligned up a bunch of rivets that are going to go through this. I'm doing it from the top because this is softer, and I've got a little bit of room in the rubber trim, which is this stuff that came off it, in this gap here, so the rivets can protrude a little bit but not too much. So what I'm about to do is the old Sika again, Sika 111, because it's got good grab. I've already cleaned it with metho, and I'm going to glue it all in place so this becomes one component which gets slid into the gap there. So that's what I'm about to do now. Alright, so that's that. What I'm going to do now is actually refit it and make sure it fits nicely, which it should, because there's no reason why it shouldn't. You can see the rivets pulled through and just slightly protruding, but that's not going to affect the rubber. So put it back in. If everything fits nicely, I'm going to carpet it all around and both sides to just give it that nice feel, and obviously sound deadening, because this is quite a hard surface, and the more sound deadening you have in that cab, the better. Alright, I've left this overnight. You can see that piece of wood's holding that extra bit of metal I fabricated. And that idea is because I had to take a rusty part of the roof out, which you can't really see the remnants, but it was similar to this, but a bit wider. I've now bonded this with Saga 111. The only permanent fixings is those rivets. These are just bonded to this plate, which is a bit thicker than these. And I'm about to take that bit of wood off. And the idea is that I can put the plywood ceiling, if you like, with the carpet and join it in the center. So one half is that side to here, and the other side is from there to this side and through to the glove box area. That's the idea behind that. So I'm going to take this apart and see what it looks like. As simple as that. So I made these up last time to fit that profile and push up at this here. I've also put some insulation in there, so that's insulated as well as this, so it's doubly insulated. And it'll be insulated again, like this bit here, all the way through. So less noise, less heat, more comfort, more coziness. These old trucks were definitely just made out of tin and very little insulation. So the idea is now I can screw into this, and I'm going to put a cap like this aluminium cap that I sprayed black across the middle here. What I'm going to do now is take this out, and I'm going to put a little lip on here. So the idea is the piece of wood can sit on that lip but be screwed up into this. That's the theory. Anyway, let's go make that. carpeting done. I'm going to just test fit it one more time in the truck, and I'm going to put some of this foam, closed cell foam, sort of thermal bridging thing on the back here to stop the heat from the sun coming through the windscreen and transferring to the aircon unit. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the sides yet. I might do, but it's the back one that's more important. The back and maybe up to the vents here somewhere, and maybe a bit on the bottom down there. See how it fits, and if it all fits good, then that's what I'll do before I fit it in properly. Make 2 more of these because they're going to be supporting, you can see the profile, the center of these panels for the front ceiling. So I've split them in half because I've learned from the rear one, trying to do one big panel is really hard work, so don't even go there. Anyway, it's done and it's okay. Well, it's better than okay, it's brilliant. And now I've got some cardboard. I'm going to use that as a template to cut the profile for this driver's side ceiling one. I want to get that side finished. Those 2 support brackets are the ones that are going to go somewhere in the center of that panel, just to give it a little bit more support, because we're only using 3mm ply, which is that stuff there. It's very flexible, which is what I use on the back piece. But I've learnt my lesson: keep it small, keep the components small, do small bits at a time. It's the same with the insulation. Trying to do it in one big hit like I did is really bloody hard work. So, and there's no point. All you have to do is butt them up really tight and tape them up with silver foil tape for the insulation, that close formed insulation. And yeah, there's no point in breaking your neck trying to make it all seamless. It just is pointless. Good morning, everybody. So left these overnight to set, so put them on a bit of a frame base and glued it there with the Saga 111, which seems to be doing the job. So that's in there, and that'll be the central single threaded or single stainless steel screw. Trying to get up. That will be holding the liner, like these ones up here that are there, and the ones that go here, which I've taken off for now. So I'm going to remove these. There's the other one, and there's this central one for the join, which will be the same as this join that goes here. So plenty of strength, if you like. So yeah, let's take these apart and let's get moving today. I want to get the liner done for the driver's side today, if I can. Alright, that's one. That's solid. Should have glued this, but I forgot. Still a little bit tacky because it was only done late last night, but it should have plenty of strength. Take this one out. That one's out as well. So that's that one marked. So that's the passenger centre hole. I think this one on the other side is the driver's side. So I'm going to use the same template because it fits nicely here as well, to cut out the wood. So that's a screw, and then we'll check the wood. I might make it a little bit narrower here because it's hard to fit this and maneuver it, and I don't want to split the wood. Anyway, let's do that. Alright, that's the two of them done. So I'm going to give them a quick vacuum and put them in. Here's the other one. Just going to trim the edge on this one. If you're interested, I'm also on Instagram, overlanding_Omar. That's my handle on the screen now. I usually post stuff that's a little bit more current. So if you're interested, please follow me on there. And there you have it, guys. Finally, the ceiling is in and it looks pretty professional.